everybody. I haven't done one of my Planets in Nakshatra Series or Ascendant in Nakshatra Series videos in a long time. So I thought I would do one tonight because the thought just dawned on me of thinking about Rahu in Ashlesha Nakshatra. So I thought I would do a special video on Rahu in Ashlesha Nakshatra and how fascinating and passionately entranced Rahu would become in Ashlesha Nakshatra. Let's kind of analyze that a little more deeply. First of all, let's look at Rahu, right? Let's look at the fact that Rahu is one half of a serpent, one half of a Naga, one of the serpent gods, right? Rahu is also known as the Caesar, not as in Caesar, the emperor of Rome, but one who seizes upon others, right? So Rahu is a Caesar. When we look at Ashlesha Nakshatra, for those of you who aren't familiar with Ashlesha Nakshatra, the deities that are connected to Ashlesha are the Nagas. They are the serpent deities, of which Rahu is actually one of. So Ashlesha also means to entwine. So here we have the planet that seizes, right? And here we have the nakshatra that entwines. And we can see how that would just get exceptionally powerful and dependent upon the dignity of Mercury, the ruling planet, perhaps even a little bit out of control. So let's talk about Ashlesha Nakshatra. It gives the power to inflict with venom, right? But that's a power. It doesn't necessarily happen. What it reminds us of, really, is that with the wisdom that we gain from life, it can have another side, which sometimes can bring us a deep level of pain or difficulty. It can seem poisonous, right? But at the same time, we get something from it. Our life can feel, somewhat difficult or even poison, but we get something from it. That's the energy that's connected to Ashlesha Nakshatra, the power to inflict with venom. So we can either see our path as being poisonous or difficult, or we can see it as being something that we gain wisdom from, as all serpents are connected to the wisdom traditions, right? All wisdom traditions, I should say, are connect to serpents in one way, shape, or form or another. So we gain wisdom from it. It also reminds us that the potential that is inside of us, the more deeply we realize that and recognize that and tap into our power, the more we have the potential to do harm to either ourselves or to another entity, right? But equally, it can also be something that just brings a deep amount of personal transformation and a deep amount of personal potential and a deep amount of personal realization. But to the extent that we go into that realization, right, we recognize that life is different. And even with that difference in life, that can sometimes feel, for a sensitive individual, somewhat poisonous, somewhat difficult, right? There is a basis above, a basis below, and a result connected to all the nakshatras. We can think of the basis above as being the energy connected to the heavens, right? So the heavens bring the approach of the serpent, right? The serpent coming to bite, so to speak. So we have a situation that comes to us, and we can either see it with great fear, which is the basis below. It brings trembling and agitation, right? Or we can get excited, or we can get passionate, which is another concept connected to trembling and agitation. It depends on what that serpent represents to us, a force that is good or a force that is difficult. The result of the basis above and the basis below is destruction of the victim. That is a twofold statement. So with wisdom comes the potential to no longer see yourself as a victim, here, you know, being a victim of a cruel universe. So the victim gets destroyed, right? The other thing is if a person, you know, continually lives in their fears, then they're going to amplify those fears and sometimes even bring upon them the worst things, right? So there we go. We've kind of talked very deeply about Ashlesha Nakshatra, but let's talk about Rahu, that planet that's going to step into our lives and is going to show us all the dark areas of our lives that haven't been explored. And what does the serpent do? The serpent goes into a hole in the ground. Many serpents live in holes in the ground, and they go and they explore all those nooks and those crannies, right? So with Rahu and Ashlesha, an individual is really going to go very deeply into examining all those underdeveloped areas of their lives. They're going to get enter into a trance with it, right? They're going to become hypnotized by it almost to the extent that they cannot see anything else, right? If there are also other spiritual indicators in the chart, this can actually be really good because the individual will get really into their own self-development. They'll go passionately into all the difficulties that they're experiencing, go passionately into their pain, into their vulnerabilities, and to the level that they do that, they're going to come out with a greater degree of personal power, right? If there's not good discrimination in the chart or a good power of judgment or the right to see clearly, that can be really difficult. So let's say, for example, we've got a situation where you've got Rahu. Rahu in the 8th house in the chart, right? So it's going to, by its very nature, as Rahu plays its agenda out, it's going to bring a lot of unexpected changes and transformations into the individual's life. Now, let's say Rahu is in Ashlesha Nakshatra and in Pada 4 of Ashlesha Nakshatra. Pada 4 can bring the potential for liberation, right? But if Rahu is having a difficult time there, then it can make it more challenging for the individual to get into that space of liberation. The 4th pada is the moksha pada, right? So it can make it more difficult for that person to get liberated from the difficulties that they're facing, right? And let's say we've got a debilitated Mercury and we've got a debilitated Jupiter, right? So Rahu is going to have its lord in the 8th house from itself and in the 3rd house from the ascendant, right? So that means all these efforts that this individual puts into changing their life and freeing themselves from difficult circumstances, it's not going to work out. And they're just going to keep getting faced with one upheaval after another, one unexpected change after another, and they're not going to have the capacity to fathom it. You know, especially if Mercury doesn't have its debilitation canceled, right? They're just going to get pulled very deeply into it, for lack of a better way to put it, lost in the sauce, so to speak, and really kind of swamped with all these difficulties and really trying to free themselves from the difficulties and make a change in their life and really putting effort into the change and really thinking that things work one way, because we have to take in the fact that Ashlesha is ruled by Mercury. So they're going to be thinking that things work one way and continually be shown that this is not the way and have tons and tons of upheavals and ups and downs in their lives, right? That can be a really difficult placement. Let's say conversely though, you've got Rahu in Pada 3, which is going to be the Kama Pada of a Dharma nakshatra, right? We have to keep in mind that Ashlesha is a Dharma-driven nakshatra, right? So let's reflect back to the previous placement. If that if Rahu is in Pada 4, as we were saying, and the person's trying to work out all those difficult, unexpected changes in their life, right? Their Dharma is just going to be to go through that. Through that, they're going to understand the nature of suffering in the world, because they're going to experience, you know, a lot of difficulty, a lot of challenges, and a lot of suffering, and they're going to go through that, and they're going to continually be looking for the right things to do, continually be looking for what their Dharma might be, and continually be perplexed by it, The reason being is that is their Dharma, to go through that, to gain from it, to integrate as much as they can, to experience. And that's really the key word there, experiencing, right? So let's say we've got Rahu, as I was saying, in Pada 3, which is the Kama Pada. It's the desire Pada. And we've got an exalted Mercury, right? And Mercury is in the 11th house, which would put Rahu in the 10th. So for this individual, they're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of pursuing their career. They're going to have a desire for status, right? They're going to get a lot of good things coming from their career. They'll probably have a very good business sense, right? And they'll sensually enjoy all the pleasures that come to them from receiving status and from receiving all the gains that they're looking for from their career, right? But we have to keep in mind, this is Rahu. So we might have, a lot of good assistance from Rahu, right? And a lot of help in terms of making, giving the person status, and in terms of giving the person a lot of good gains from their life, and really giving them the capacity to enjoy all those things. But with Rahu, what goes up quite often comes down, right? Because that's the nature of Rahu. Rahu is going to show us where we're underdeveloped. It's going to show us what we still need to do work on, right? So he's going to play himself out in those particular areas, play himself out in career, right? And make it so the individual is really looking for good material, happiness and good material status, right? But the individual will likely go through stages where that is taken away from him over and over again. So he can understand that he needs to have a balance of emotional security inside of himself, right? A little bit of humility as well, and also that external. So it's about balancing the humility with the status, right? Balancing and understanding of all the other individuals that helped him to get to that path with actually what he has done to create that for himself. So it can bring the enjoyment and it can bring the status, but it can also bring the potential for that to be taken away, because the individual has to learn both sides of the equation, right? So Rahu and Ashlesha, very powerful position, can really draw the individual in to the extent that they are just lost in a trance with what Rahu's position in their chart means, right? If that, if Mercury is well placed and well supported and dependent upon the house positions, this person can get, can really realize their potential. Like we were saying before, they would realize their potential in career, right? They can also realize their potential spiritually if other spiritual factors are there. It's a very exceptionally powerful nakshatra and absolutely one of my favorites. If you'd like, if you have any planets in Ashlesha Nakshatra, or even if you don't, or if you'd like to know if you have planets in Ashlesha Nakshatra, or hey, even if you just need for me to take a look at something for you, just a reminder of my astrological services page, which is linked below. If you click on that, it'll take you there and you can schedule or start the scheduling process for an astrological consultation. Also look on my website for my full-length nakshatra course, extensive nakshatra course, which starts 23rd April. You can also find that on my website if you're visiting the astrological services page. Just look for the course menu at the top. That's going to do it. Take care of yourself. Bye now.